Hey, folks, welcome to a podcast about Catholic things. This is Eric, the ambassador of common sense, and I'm here with
Dan, the ambassador of nonsense. Welcome, folks.
Here we are, one step further, or 1 week further away from the election, and we know who won. We just don't know who's going to be president.
Who's going to be in the White House? That's right.
I see people taking this so lightly, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people are even thinking about it the right way. I mean, what if I keep hearing about the peaceful transfer of power as if that means something? You remember that show, The Sound of Music? I don't know how much you remember about the plot, but there's a point at which the Captain Von Trapp is showing this anger because his government had given over to the Nazis without fighting. There was no war.
Right,
they just
without a fight.
Gave up.
Yeah.
And it just floored him, and yet he could do nothing about it. And I don't know. What if China came in and said, hey, we're going to be president from now on? And everybody said, well, we don't want a war. So
we don't. Yeah. Let's keep peace. Stay peaceful no matter what else.
Fight.
Yeah. No, exactly.
And it's like, well, wait a minute.
Right.
You have to fight.
Yeah.
And if obviously I can't go out and start a war, but
as a people, we should be ready to. Definitely.
If we have a leader who will stand up and do it, then we need to follow that leader. And hopefully we do. We don't know how this is going to play out yet, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, there's a lot of people who want to, in spite of the evidence of fraud and the clear lack of interest on the part of the Department of Justice in investigating it, there's people who want to believe that the system will somehow work. Even if this election was stolen, the system will somehow turn it around. We'll figure it out. We'll get it right next time. Or something like that. They don't realize that there's a kind of end game.
Yeah, this is kind of the last time. There is no next time if they win.
Yeah, there will be this is going to be an inflection point of sorts.
I mean, you look at countries like China. When's the last time the Chinese people had any power? It's not like...
Never.
Yeah, I mean, so that could be us. If we don't stand and stop it, that it's not like God has his eye on us and said, well, I'm going to watch out for them. He never gave America any promise that we would continue to be America.
Right.
We could end up like Russia or China or any other
the last time people
country.
Tried to insist on any kind of recognition in China was Tiananmen Square.
Yeah, and look what happened there.
They were mowed over with tanks.
So I wish we could do more than just pray for now, but that's kind of all we can do. And
I mean, look what's it's kind of like what they're doing in Hong Kong.
Yeah,
and what I think, we supported the, in ways that may have been illegal at the time, but we supported the freedom fighters in Nicaragua against the communist regime there. What we really should be doing is working behind the scenes to arm and support possible freedom fighters in Hong Kong,
right,
if there are any. But that should be the kind of place our hearts are as a nation. Yeah, that's that. But the fact that everybody is such a that kind of ties into our topic today.
Right. It's they keep talking about law and order, and I'm like, why is law and order the highest order here? Why is law and order above everything else? I think American sovereignty should be above law and order.
Yeah.
Should be above everything.
Sometimes you need a little bit of disorder.
If the law is what we're trying to eliminate, if the law is what brought us to this point, then we have to eliminate that. We have to step over it and restructure, do something. And it's not even a law, as we've pointed out many times. It's this giant bureaucracy that's running everything.
Right. And, but
You're right. That does tie into it, because that's why we're all doing what we're doing right now when we go to Kroger's and the hardware store, and we're wearing these masks, which is what we were going to talk about today. You know, when the mask orders first came out, I ignored them. And it got to the point where before I walked into a store, I would decide, how much do I really need what's inside there? Because if I go in without a mask and they tell me to put it on, I'm going to get angry and I'm going to leave. There's no way I'm putting a mask on because they told me to. And now it's kind of what the governor has done is said, well, you might not go to jail for not wearing a mask, but the business that you walk into for not making you wear the mask is going to get shut down or fined or something like that.
Right.
And now I'm finding myself just wearing it more and more because I don't want the companies to suffer. Although maybe they should. I don't know. If they're not fighting it.
Could be, yeah. I mean, but that's one of those tough ones. But, you know, maybe part of the thing is that maybe we give our governments too much power over them. So what does it mean to shut them down? They revoke, you know, if it's a bar, they revoke a liquor license. If it's a store, they, you know, revoke whatever. Every kind of public storefront requires some kind of license from the state.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a level at which that's not a good thing in itself. And maybe there's a level on which that very fact, that very power of the state is something that ought to be opposed.
When companies as big as, we're going to leave out Amazon for now because they're not even a part of all this, but someone like Home Depot or Walmart, not that Walmart's going to help at all, but a company as big as that, they do actually have the power to fight this kind of thing. And if they said, look, you're telling us we have to shut down, and we're not going to shut down. We're going to just continue to do business. You're going to actually have to send state troopers and arrest our people, and then we're going to help them in court and make sure that they win and take care of their families until we do win. We're going to fight this. I wish that kind of patriotism still existed.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. So,
and yeah, it doesn't, and there's I think a lot of it, maybe, you know, there's a certain segment of the population that, you know, it's a question of the balance of fear of consequences versus the desire to assert what they know is their right, for example. But, you know, the thing that I really want to talk about in this podcast, if we could talk about the people, kind of using the people who are wearing masks to identify a few categories, because it's kind of interesting. I think the masks are one of these things that when you look at the demeanor of the different people and how they respond to them, there's a few lines that people kind of fall into. There's the ones who say, no, I'm never going to wear a mask, and they dig their heels in. And then there's the ones who will say, I'll wear a mask grudgingly, but only if the person whose property I'm on tells me I have to, which, you know, on a level, you know, if we're going to support property rights, then we would say, well, at least, you know, they have the right to tell you put the mask on or get out.
Right.
But, you know, by that same token, they ought to have the right to let you smoke on their property too, for example. And you know, that's another thing that we've just given up without a fight. The government said, oh, okay, certain kinds of places aren't allowed to allow smoking. And then you've got people, and I'm going in a sort of order here. You'll see the trend. Mm-hmm. You've got the people who will say, this is stupid. The masks are ineffectual. They're dumb. But gosh, the government's telling me to, so I have to. And so they put it on. And then you've got the people who are, who actually believe that the masks serve a legitimate medical public health purpose. Okay, well, we've got to be resigned to this because it serves a public health need. It's not good to have masks, but we're avoiding the greater evil of the spread of the pandemic and so on and so forth. A lot of those people are kind of fooled into what they actually think the masks do. I think a lot of the people who are on that category think that the mask is going to keep them from getting the virus.
Yeah, I think they do.
They don't understand that it's to try to keep them from spreading it under the assumption that they have it.
Right.
And then there's the last category of people, and this is the people that really had me puzzled for a while. I had to think about this one for a little while before I could figure out what was going on here. But there is and it's unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be a small group. There is a category of people out there that are wearing these masks, and it's not a resignation for them. It's not something that they are treating or giving any indication of feeling as a necessary evil. They're treating it as a positive good. They're rallying around it. They're proudly wearing it. They're joyfully putting these masks on their kids.
It's almost like they're sanctimonious about it.
Yeah. Those are the ones that had me puzzled for a while, because that doesn't make even the smallest bit of human sense.
Yeah, it still got me puzzled.
Well, I think there's something here that I've been able to put my finger on. If you remember back in the Old Testament, as though we were alive back then, the Israelites, after they got out of Egypt and they were led eventually to the Holy Land and so forth, but and they actually hadn't, if I remember right, they hadn't fully flushed out the Canaanites yet. That was like the last land. And they hadn't gotten around to conquering that, even though God had told them He would give them this land as their heritage. It's like they were afraid to take God at His word and go in and take it. But God, for a time, had the Israelites ruled by a series of judges. Then I say ruled. Ruled is a loose word here, because it wasn't so much that there were judges who sat over and decided things for everybody the way a king would. They were moral leaders, often prophets, and but the way it worked is that God provided, and when they were in need of something, there was a judge or a prophet who would be able to tell them what they needed to do. So, and if they did that, God took care of them. When they failed to do that, the results were disastrous for them.
Well, would this be like? Would they do things like settle disputes, or was it more of a?
I think it was bigger than that. They had like the Levites probably, or maybe one of the other, like the Levites were the tribe of priests, and they probably were more involved in day-to-day disputes.
Yeah,
These are bigger things. But to give you an idea, Samuel, who's the one who anointed first Saul and then later King David, Samuel was the last judge in the line of judges. But what happened, if you remember, the Israelites decided that they wanted a king. It's like all our neighbors have kings. We want a king. And so they went to Samuel and said, "Hey, tell God we want a king." And Samuel was like, "Well, what do you mean you want a king? He's gonna take your crops from you. You're gonna have to give him 1/10 of everything you have every year. He's gonna call your sons up and send them into battle." He basically said they're going to be a tyrant and they're going to make your lives miserable and you're going to be beholden to them. And they said, "Yeah, but we want a king anyway." And I think,
I heard that story like when I was in like 3rd or 4th grade in religion class, and I remember hearing about it and not really understanding it, and I don't think I've ever given it a thought until right now while we're talking.
Well, okay. See, I think because God made us for Him, obviously, and He designed us to be sinless, but we're fallen. But we have built into our character, we're both social and we have a built-in drive for a higher destiny. And because we're social, we also want to approach that communally. So basically what that translates into in worldly terms is that we have this built-in drive to identify together in groups according to what we're being led to or what we're being led by.
Okay.
And God offered the ancient Israelites himself as the unifying identity for that drive. They would be his people. And now, they kind of said, that's not good enough. We want a king. We want something visible. And he gave in to him. And in fact, he took their insistence on that and turned it into, because he's infinitely provident, he can do this kind of stuff. He turned it into what was ultimately a good thing because he raised up King David, and then from the line of David came Jesus, the King of Kings, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But it shows that fundamental character, that there's something in people that drives us to want to unify ourselves in service of something greater than ourselves. Most of the world today has rejected God. I mean, with the spread of Christendom and the increase in the various orders of religious and the way the church was organized by parishes where people belonged to that parish and they were, catechized and knew what they were destined for and felt that as part of a parish family, which I hate those words when I hear it at Mass these days, but that's kind of what it was. They were a community. I mean, and I don't want to paint it like it's a rosy picture, like the world was, didn't have its problems. That there was violence and there was brutality and everything else. I don't want to say that wasn't there, but in terms of this ability to identify as a group serving something greater, not only greater but infinite. That was palpable, and it's been lost to most people in the world today. Now, you and I grew up, we kind of always had that available to us, and not all of our, not all of everybody in our family has clung to that, but our parents did it in a way, when I say did it, I mean ran their family and raised us in a way that we didn't lack for that.
Yeah.
But there's lots of people who lack for that. And so now what are they doing? They're turning to other things to be their unifying principle that they can be of service to, that they can identify themselves by being servants to what, this greater thing, whatever it is. A lot of times it's, the various... It kind of explains the intolerance of the extreme left, for example. They've got their set of causes. Often those causes are based in identity theory, like black and women and gay and so on and so forth. But they have become so slavish to the service of this thing because they had to replace God with something. So now they're instead of a free service to God, because God calls us to truth and freedom, they're in this slavish service to their causes, even to the point where if one of them disagrees on one particular item, or if one of them, we see this a lot with Trump, praises somebody that they consider an enemy, they're canceled and they're ostracized. And they're treated as though they have turned into some kind of a monster. That's the kind of slavishness that these people on the left have adopted for themselves as a community towards these causes. And I think it also kind of explains why they're so hostile to science. They aren't interested in facts. Instead, what they want to do is set up a society in which experts tell everybody how to live instead of providing facts that everybody else decides for themselves what to do with them.
Yeah, and then and that word that they throw around almost as if it was a religion. And
and I think that's what these gleeful mask wearers are. I think it's, hey, this is a unifying sign of our servitude to something. And they're thrilled about it, and they feel in some way that there's some way that it satisfies a deep longing that is a real, genuine human longing, but they've never known that longing to be satisfied because they haven't been part of the church, at least in any meaningful way. I mean,
sad
you see
part
people
is
who even at Catholic parishes and stuff doing this.
Well,
but
that's
again, it's
in the
not
Novus
meaningful to
Ordo.
them.
parishes, it is. It's like if you go to one of their masses, you'll see pretty much everyone wearing a mask. You might every now and then see someone who doesn't, but my sons won't even go to the Novus Ordo anymore, even though it's more convenient because it's right up the street and they can just walk up there at any time on Sunday almost. It's got like 5 masses. But they'll get up early and go with me because, first of all, because of the priest and his idiotic sermons, but also because if you walk in without a mask, they're given the stinky eye, and I think they're being told now that people have to wear a mask. But they seem so happy about it, and they seem so hostile toward people who aren't part of that little group. Mm-hmm. And did you hear Jason talking about the guy who in his parish who got up and yelled at everyone?
Oh, he yelled at people? No, he did. I heard him talk about the guy. He was walking past a guy who like suddenly turned and faced the wall and hid while Jason walked by.
No. This didn't happen the way really it should happen, but it's my understanding that Jason was in the back with his family, and apparently this is a pretty full church. It's a big church, and it's pretty full, and it's a pretty woke parish. And Jason doesn't have his mask on. Most of his kids don't. And then there's like one other family way up front, and they don't have their masks.
Okay, so there's a few people without masks.
There's like two people out
of
families. Several hundred.
Yeah.
And from what Jason could gather, the woman next to him either said something or gave him a stinky eye or did something to indicate that he was bad for not wearing a mask. And I don't know if this is right before Mass. Well, I know the priest was there because he pointed out the priest. He got up and turned around and started yelling at everyone and said, "You people are morons. We're supposed to be the smart ones, and you're all wearing your masks like a bunch of sheep." And then he pointed to the priest and he said, "You're the worst. You're supposed to be leading these people, and you're having them all fall in line like a bunch of sheep." And he grabbed his kids and stormed off.
I wish I had the guts to do that.
I do too.
Or when I go to Mass,
I wish I could have filmed something like that.
When I usually go to the Novus Ordo Mass.
Mm-hmm. I thought you were going to the Tridentine now.
But the Novus Ordo Mass is the one because I like to go on Saturday.
Oh, okay.
And even if I go on Sunday, it's like I like to get up and go right away. And the Tridentine Mass isn't until 11:30 or something like that. Oh,
yeah, that kind of shoots the day down.
By that time, yeah. So, but even at at this parish,
you know what? Before you talk, hold on. Before you talk, I'm reminded of something here, and it was something our priest gave a talk before he started Mass last week, and he delivered the message that the governor had told him he should deliver.
Okay.
And he did say, he said something to the extent that I would ask parish members not talk to the press if they're approached. I guess he was trying to guard he was trying to, how do I say this? He didn't.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
He didn't want to give someone a reason to shut him down. So I'm not going to talk too much about my parish because
Good point.
I don't want to lose that Mass.
Yeah. Well,
otherwise I'd have a whole lot to say about the way we do it at our Mass.
And we'll leave it at that. So anyway, but the point is, it's they're doing what they must to comply with the requests of the state and local health departments and so on and so forth. They've got a sign on the door that says the county health department has said, and then they do that. But that's as far as they take it. Then they leave it to people to figure it out for themselves. But I wish I had the guts to
to get up and do something
to
like
shame
that.
a crowd of mask wearers like that. Because he's absolutely right.
He is. But the sad part about it is they probably did. I don't think most of them got what he was saying. Most of them think, "Oh, you evil man, you're against us all. You're against the community and the fraternity and the brotherhood that we're here to celebrate." Because in their minds, that's what we're doing at Mass.
Yeah, by wearing masks. Yeah, that's right. We're at Mass for each other in their minds. That's what the Mass is. It's a coming together.
And Pope Francis reinforces this with his Fruity Tooty encyclical.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
It's odd, though. But what I will say is that it seems like the Orthodox Catholics, the one going to the Tridentine Mass, most of them, you will not see them wearing a mask.
Yeah, they're the least likely to give it. And it makes perfect sense. Those who already have a strong sense of identity and communal identity in service to someone, God himself, are the ones who don't need that same identity, with something else. They don't, the mask doesn't serve that purpose for them, and so they are freer to look at whether it makes sense and make a decision based on that.
And the ones I think who do, I get, there are those who wear it, and I think because of the reason I just mentioned, because they feel like that will somehow enable that will somehow keep the bishops or the governors from shutting down the church.
Shutting down, right.
Which I think maybe we ought to challenge that and kind of spit in his eye and say, no, we're going to do this anyway, and then show up for church regardless. But
would that the bishops would do that to the governors.
Yeah, I know it.
That's what's
I
really
think they'd
needed.
get a following too, maybe. I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't. But
they would. I mean, if a bishop said,
I know,
no,
I would.
I'm not going to. I mean, yeah.
I would go, and I would go to jail. And I would say, no, I'm going to Mass. If we have even a priest to lead us, but at least a bishop. I guess the priest has to. I don't know.
The priests have a duty of religious
out
obedience to the bishops. That's
where
the
does
problem.
that
There's
obedience stop?
That's why the bishops are the ones who have to lead.
The bishops are the ones who have to lead. But if the bishop isn't leading,
to say, oh well, that's the lady's problem. They have to deal with all the secular stuff. That doesn't work if they're not backing the laity up. Or leading the laity. You know what I mean? It's They at least have to be ready to say well done when somebody does something instead of punishing them.
They're paying off these families in order to keep the priests out of hot water when the priests have molested kids.
Yeah.
And that kind of money should go towards helping priests and the laity become warriors against a suppressive government.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of things they should be spending their money on. But sadly, we know that they don't, and I don't think they ever will.
Yeah.
But, going back to the Israelites, you have to wonder if there was a group of people who were resisting the others and saying, we don't need a king, we have the judges.
I bet there were. I mean, but even, like, for example, like I said, Samuel tried to talk them out of it. And I bet there were those who were loyal to what he was saying, who really got it, and who were trying to get others to understand, and probably were just as befuddled as we are now.
Yeah. They're like, you guys are idiots. Why do we want to pay taxes? We don't have to pay taxes now, and then we'll have to pay taxes. We haven't lost a single war. You scratch your head and think, why are people so willing to give up their freedoms?
Yeah. And it's like I said, I think it has, and you know what? Probably among the Israelites, it was probably the same problem then as it is now. Even though they were the people of God, a lot of them, individually, and in their various local communities, probably didn't really have faith in God.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole concept of God, hadn't presented quite as solidly to them as it does to us. So, he became man, and that's kind of the pinnacle. And we can look back and criticize them, but at least recognize that they didn't have what we have. They maybe have an excuse that we don't have. But I think it is the same thing. They probably, in large measure, didn't really have faith in God, and that's why they wanted a king. They thought, a king will protect us and make us strong, and so on and so forth. And I think that's the same problem today. People don't have faith in God. So many people have left the church, and this is their replacement.
Yeah,
it's the church of the mask.
They did it in Israel even after they had a king. They just kept doing it over and over again.
Yeah, I know. The kings would
talked
even
about
lead them
it
away.
A couple times.
Right.
And I just, all through grade school, as we learned about how the Israelites did this, I always just scratched my head and thought, how can a giant group of people who God specifically saved and
protected,
declared as his own, how could they be that stupid? And here we've got Pope Francis and the Pachamama, and now our bishops just throwing our rights away.
And all of our fellow Americans.
Yeah.
Ready to,
there are people so willing
holding up their wrists saying, please, China, put the cuffs on us. I mean, that's what it's like.
Yeah, and now we're finding out that China may actually own the voting machines.
Of course.
Dominion. The lawyer who represented Nick Sandmann. I can't remember his name now. It's slipping my mind.
Oh, Sandmann. Nick.
No, I mean the lawyer who represented him.
Right. The lawyer. Oh, you can't think of the lawyer's name.
Right. But he released, I think it was a tweet, saying that China bought Dominion, that China owns Dominion.
Oh, wow.
Now,
you're talking about, Lynn Wood. It's the lawyer's name,
Wood. Right. He is making the claim, and he's said he is working on the proof, although if he had the proof, I don't know what difference it would make, that China actually owns Dominion, the voting machine company.
And there are people for whom that will not even be a concern.
Right. So what? Who owns it? We still voted, and there's still no evidence. And it's like, no, that is the evidence.
Yes, of course.
The fact that China owns it is the evidence that we need to revote.
That's evidence that we can't trust that vote.
We cannot accept the numbers that we're being given. We know they're wrong, and every little bit of information we get confirms it more and more. And I keep hearing it's like we're being gaslighted, and it's like,
remember,
no,
folks,
we don't have evidence. We don't have evidence.
China is a country. If you travel to China and leave your computer, your laptop in your hotel room, it will be tampered with. The cleaning staff will open it and try to get it to boot up and try to find stuff in it that they will pass on to local police just so that they can have it, just to give them more informational awareness about various foreign travelers. And the more important you are, if you're the CEO of a company, for example, the more time they're going to spend on it. If you're gone, you don't leave your devices. If you have a device with Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, their hotels will have software that is actively trying to get past whatever security it has and get information and copy the contents of your device. This is the society that China is. If you want to sell a device in China that has encryption keys in it or security keys or whatever, you are required by law to provide the Chinese government with the set of private keys that are built into the device that you're selling at market. This is what China is.
I guess
if they are the owners of the company that manufacture Dominion voting machines, it would be the height of foolishness to even imagine that those machines do not have some way for the Chinese government to get into them, assuming there is a path to them through the internet.
Right. It boggles my mind that people don't get that. And I'm constantly trying to think up words that would explain it properly. And I never can. I'm always at a loss. But another way to look at this is American companies, if you're the CEO of a company, your task is most of all to make more money for the company. But to, say, gain market share of a certain, customer base or whatever.
You're supposed to expand your...
In China, every single company is the Chinese government. And every single company's, their task is not just to gain market share, but to control the other companies who are outside of China's dominion.
The global companies. Yeah. The Chinese companies are sponsored by and commissioned by their government, by the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party, to engage industrial espionage on other companies from around the world. Things that we would consider illegal in the United States. The companies in China are commissioned to engage in those activities and required to engage in those activities by the Chinese government.
And I'll tell you what, if things continue this way, someday that takeover will be complete. And I don't think it's that far ahead.
One wonders, China's been getting very aggressive about some things lately.
Yeah. These companies like Twitter and Google who are allowing China to walk on our backs, and if they think they're going to rest from this or maintain any kind of control over their companies, they're insane. And if they think they're always going to be handsomely rewarded for that, they're insane about that too.
Yeah, and they're Chinese. China's pushing. The communications company. What is it? Highway or something like that. I forget the exact name of it. That real big comms company that some United States lawmakers are trying to push back and say, wait a minute, we don't want them owning a wireless communications monopoly in the United States, and we just assumed that our European brethren figure that out too. But here's another thing about China. And I know this because I worked on the products that get sold and have this technology embedded in them in China. China is so controlling about information that even merely the question of where you are on the map, on the land, whatever, is hidden by the Chinese government. We have GPS systems here, right? You do the GPS, and it tells you where you are, and then you can map that to a spot on a map, and you can figure out where you are on the map and where the highways are and that kind of stuff. What China does is they have certain areas that they don't want. They wanted, like, let's say you wanted to disappear an area from a map. Let's say Cincinnati. Cincinnati is not a good example because it's on a river. Let's say Indianapolis. Okay. Let's say the government wanted to disappear Indianapolis. So they take. It's not quite as handy as 275 around Cincinnati, but 465 around Indianapolis. It's pretty much a circle all the way around. They take that highway. They say, okay, we're going to build a big wall there. We're going to disconnect all the other highways. We're going to build the roads around so that it maps around it, and we'll gently curve them and so forth. And then it's like, okay, but yeah, I'm driving and I got the GPS and I could see it, and it's like, there's a great big spot there where nobody goes. What's there? And it makes them. What China actually does is they have the government go and set up and say, okay, what we're going to do is take the roads that go around this place and we're going to redefine the GPS coordinates of those roads as though they went right through the place. So like US 31, it'll bend gently around Indianapolis, but we're going to just pretend it goes straight through. And then we're going to require car manufacturers and the makers of GPS, dashboard units and so on and so forth, they have to encrypt the GPS data right out of the box so that nobody can interpret it and find out the real GPS location. That encrypted data is going to go into a special chip that we, the government, will provide, and then the GPS data that we want in response is going to come out of that chip to make it look like you're someplace that we've really disappeared. Wow. And they disappear places from the map that way.
Wow.
Yeah. This is what's going on in China. This is, and that people
what's gonna go on
scared
here
of China is a real problem.
And you think about it, there's many more people in China than there are in America. And you would assume that those people long for freedom, but they're not getting it. And it's a very tiny few who are ruling them and not allowing them that freedom. Why do people think that can't happen here?
Yeah.
Why do they think that, when everybody finds out about Dominion voting, then they'll rise up? Nope,
they're not.
They're not doing that in China. They're not. They don't do it in Russia.
Right.
Why are they going to do it here? They haven't. Every now and then there's a riot, but it's usually just senseless destruction. It's just to show protest. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't topple a leader and replace him. It just burns a building down. Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, the closest that we've come to rising up has just been undirected, wanton looting and vandalism.
Yeah,
not an actual rebellion.
Right. I don't know how we got that far off of the masks, but
because I mean it's.
I guess that's because that's where both of us kind of see things
that's
leading.
Where it's going. That it's because people have forgotten God. They're ready to lift up their hands and have the shackles slammed on them.
Yeah,
they're wanting it. They're craving those shackles because they've forgotten God, and that's why they're willing to just put up with anything. It's government lead us. Experts lead us, just as long as there's somebody telling us what to do. And if somebody's out there saying, no, I'm going to put a stop to people telling you what to do. Oh, you're anti-democratic. You're a Nazi. That's what's going on. You're a
science denier.
I mean, yeah. Exactly. You want people to think for themselves, you're anti-science.
It's like when the Israelites were leaving Egypt, they suddenly decided they want to go back and be slaves again.
Yeah, they got out in the desert.
Group them. God was like, wait a minute, no, that's not what I made you for.
Yeah.
I didn't bring you out so you could be slaves to something else or go back and be slaves again.
Yeah, it's like God's it's like God's dragging them by the teeth into freedom.
Yeah, he had to shove it down their throats.
That's the way people are acting today. And I finally figured it out. It's because people don't have God. The Israelites, they were led out of into the desert, by Moses, God working through Moses, but their faith was weak, and they lost that sense of God. Now, God helped them then by sending the 10 Commandments, giving the 10 Commandments to Moses. But what happened in the little bit of time he was up on Mount Sinai talking to God? They fell into idol worship again. They built a calf to be a visible symbol of something that they could worship.
That's such a weird thing to me.
Then God had,
especially saying it that way. They fell into idol worship. Think about that. Like there's some kind of temptation to worship something you don't even understand.
Exactly. But that's the thing. That's what I'm talking about. There is something built into us that we want to come together as a group and serve something. God built that into us. Of course, he built it into us so that we would serve him and that he could lead us to freedom. But we've got to keep our eyes on him.
Yeah, and we have to at least discern what is true and what is not true. And that will lead us to God. Back when Darwin came out with his theories, and of course at first he was rejected, and then there was enough pressure on society in general to start at least saying, well, okay, some of this makes sense. And then more pressure was put on Christians and even the Catholic Church to allow Darwinism. And there just a few people kind of held on to the idea of creation, and not Darwinism, but something a little bit different, or something a lot different than Darwinism. And they were all called anti-science.
Yeah.
And that same group of people, the same type of person who said, wait a minute, no, I did not descend from apes. I'm something totally different from an ape. Mm-hmm. They were also the same people saying, no, I don't think we're causing these hurricanes. I don't think we're creating droughts or making the ocean rise. And we're called science deniers for that. Yeah. And now we're looking at something that's with these masks. The lie is so blatant that I would be embarrassed to say that I believe it.
Yeah, but that's the whole point. That's why these modern leftists are so hostile to the idea of true science. They are absolutely horrified at the idea of pinning facts down. And instead, they don't even want the facts visible. They want experts to simply tell people, here's how you're going to live. And then everything's going to be good.
They want an interpretation of facts, and not really facts. They just want the interpretation.
Yeah. Right.
No matter what that comes from, as long as it's a guy who was from Harvard, who's qualified and wears a white jacket, then okay, that's something we can accept.
The interpretation is everybody's going to do this.
Yeah.
As long as it's uniform, then we can feel like we're united in service to something.
And I can pull my mask out and show everyone, this is how much I love all of you to wear this mask, and this is how good I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sad thing.
It's a sad state of affairs, to say the least.
Yeah. Well, you got any more on that?
No, I think we've about exhausted that topic. That went a little bit further afield than I even expected to go with it.
Yeah.
But it really does all tie in. That fact that there are people who are out there just gleefully, donning the masks and walking around with pride and so forth. That fact should have everybody else absolutely terrified, because that shows how close we are to just turning our society into one that's built on shackles for citizens.
It shows how easy it would be to turn us all into slaves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in that case, I have a few current events because
all right.
We skipped a week because of Thanksgiving.
That's right. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone, belatedly.
Yeah, and hopefully you got to see your family and ignore whatever laws are out there against you
without masks.
Yeah,
people with faces.
So, the drug maker Purdue Pharma pled guilty to criminal charges, acknowledging their role in the opioid epidemic.
Ah, no kidding. What did they understate?
I don't know
about the need for doctor drawdown? I mean, doctor controlled drawdown.
I don't think there's any real solution or anything that comes. I don't think this at all steers us into a solution for the opioid epidemic. I think they're just saying we want the lawsuit to be over, so we'll pay you billions of dollars, because they have billions of dollars, and it's not that big a deal to them.
So for unspecified reasons, they've simply given a nod to the statement that, we had something to do with it.
Yeah.
We contributed.
Yeah.
That's like saying GM contributed to automobile deaths.
Right.
Okay.
But, I think we're learning more and more that a lot of these drug companies are somehow connected to China. So I have to think if it's like, if we sued China and China said, yeah, we did that, we don't really care. We're trying to do something here. We're trying to take over your country. So if you want to sue us for that, go ahead. We're still going to take over your country. Because the opioid epidemic still exists, and we haven't really found a solution. We may have kind of slowed it down, but it's still there, and it needs to be dealt with. Speaking of money, Elon Musk is now richer than Bill Gates. So Jeff Bezos, then Elon Musk, then Bill Gates as far as the richest men in the world.
Okay.
I can't imagine having... I don't even want to think about it. Speaking of China, they launched, I guess they call this Chang 5. It's a robotic spacecraft, and it's going to land on the moon, and it's going to bring back, I think, a couple kilograms of soil.
Okay.
This is the
cool
first...
in and of itself.
Yeah. So this is the first spacecraft sent to the moon in order to bring something back since 1976.
Okay.
When the Soviet Union did it.
All right.
So I have to wonder, why would China want anything from the moon? Like, how do they don't do anything unless it's going to help them dominate.
Well, you know what? There's a reason that Trump created the space task force or whatever.
Yeah, Space Force.
Space Force. It's not just about satellites. Space is going to become a frontier with economic ramifications.
Yeah.
A populated frontier. And China is far-sighted enough to recognize that.
Yeah.
Besides, we also, given what China is, we don't know that that's all they're doing. We don't know that they're not leaving something there.
Right. They could be doing, there's all kinds of things they could be doing.
So.
United States withdraws from the Treaty on Open Skies. This is a good thing. It gives...
What is the Treaty on Open Skies?
So it gives the countries who have signed on to it, I guess, special permission to fly craft over our airspace. Unarmed craft.
Oh, okay.
So
like they can plan flight routes that as long as they maintain a certain altitude, if the shortest path is to go over the United States, they can do that as long as we're all part of the same treaty.
But it also, I think, gives them the ability to put drones and stuff like that in our airspace.
Okay, not just passenger aircraft or cargo aircraft. Yeah,
so
that would be a problem.
Trump finally pardons Michael Flynn. Not that he needed to, because Michael Flynn didn't do anything wrong.
He's not guilty of anything. It would be nice. It could be that Trump was hoping that he was going to end up being exonerated and not need a pardon. But he should have pardoned him, because I know that I get that it's like, okay, if I pardon him, then the pressure's off to continue the investigation to exonerate him.
Yeah.
But seeing that his days in the White House may be numbered, it makes sense to go ahead and do that.
At the same time, I don't know. I sure as heck hope Donald Trump does something other than pardoning him. I mean, Michael Flynn pretty much gave up his entire life for Donald Trump. He lost everything.
Right.
The only reason he ever talked about pleading guilty to anything was because they flat out told him, we're going to go after your family now.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said, okay.
He said, all right, yeah.
And it's sad that had to happen, and it's sad that Donald Trump didn't somehow put a stop to it.
That happens in the United States.
Yeah.
That's what you expect in China. That's what you expect in Nazi Germany. Those who went after Flynn are the Nazis. Yeah.
It's just, it's terrible. And again, it's another one of those things. We can't do anything about it, and we hope that if we can fend off this regime, Biden regime, which is really just a puppet regime, we can maybe start to turn some of this stuff around. But it looks kind of bleak. But I think eventually we're going to have to do a show on what happens if Biden gets elected, is installed as the ruler of America. But I think we should wait until Trump concedes before we even talk about him conceding.
Right.
So, Iran's most senior nuclear scientist was assassinated.
Wow.
Some attackers blew up his car, and then they opened fire on his vehicle, and then there was a gunfight, and some of them have been killed, but I think they are blaming it on Israel.
So,
which I could see.
So they think somebody hired these guys to do this. Israel,
right. But several of Iran's nuclear scientists keep getting killed. And I guess it's because, we had that. I
could imagine that Israel might have intelligence that they're, very close to being able to, develop.
And I think, we had this treaty, which we knew was really just actually giving them a stepping stone to having nuclear weapons. Yep. And then we withdrew, and now Iran is even more bold about saying, well, now we don't have to follow it. Not that they ever did, and so they are continuing they're continuing to try to develop nuclear weapons, and every now and then, I guess Israel or another nation is putting a stop to it. Maybe it was us.
Yeah, well.
But, okay, the big news of the week, Sarah Fuller of Vanderbilt becomes the first female athlete to play in a Power 5 college football game.
Really?
Well, she kicked the ball. She was a kicker. That's all.
Oh, she's just a kicker. Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know. She had this. She
They're
had
usually
this
small
speech.
guys anyway.
Yeah.
But still, I can't imagine. I can't imagine that she's going to get the same yards as guys who are kickers.
No, she wouldn't.
It's like she can make the extra point kicks maybe, but when it comes to the field goals, it's like, well, okay, it's her, so we know they've got to get that much closer to the goal line before they can start thinking field goal in terms of strategy.
Yeah. I heard some kind of interview with her, or basically just a clip of her saying, girls can do anything they want. You women can do anything you want. And I just keep thinking, it's so stupid.
Yeah.
You can't do anything you want. I can't fly.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if I got an airplane, but I can't just jump
off
off my roof
languages,
and fly.
But I can't.
Yeah. You can't do anything you want. And the fact is, women are generally smaller than men. So
yeah, I want to be I want to be a concert quality pianist, but I've tried. I've worked at it, and I can't.
I worked on learning to play the banjo for an entire year. Practice. And this is not only before I got married, before I knew anyone who would take me serious enough to marry me. So I didn't date or anything. I practiced probably 8 hours a day for almost an entire year. Wow. And at the end of that, I could play like 6 or 7 songs.
Yeah.
And after all that, finally you got to admit, I'm never going to be a banjo player. I'll just be able to strum some songs, but I'm not a musician. And girls are not going to be able to compete on a professional level with men. That's just all there is to it.
Or even a college level.
Yeah. That's why we have 2 different leagues.
Yeah.
I mean, because it would be unfair to them, and they wouldn't get to play.
Granted, there's going to be some overlap, but there's no way that she's in a league with the other kickers in those same in the various college teams that they would be playing against.
And it proves true in every sport.
Yeah.
But that was almost a nonsense story.
It could have been. It really could have been.
Yeah. But that's all I got. That's all. There not a whole lot of news, except for just the more COVID stuff. And now they're saying they're gonna get tougher. Oh, I did hear the announcement from the COVID task force, and this is a federal thing. They're saying we're worried about hospital overload again because everybody ignored our warnings and had Thanksgiving parties, and it's about to get really bad again.
You know what? We were supposed to have taken care of that by flattening the curve for 2 weeks 9 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we've flattened the doggone curve. Get your game on and deal with it now. Let's open back up and become a human world again.
Yeah.
But, as more and more regular people get it, and by regular I mean they're not old and they don't have, they don't already have long-term breathing problems and stuff like that. As more and more regular people get it, the recovery rate keeps going up.
Yeah. Yeah, things keep looking better and better over this whole COVID thing. And
the whole panic keeps looking more and more stupid.
Yeah. And they're trying harder and harder to... I mean, just saying that again... That the hospitals might get overlooked. Could anyone really... They said that, remember? And it didn't happen.
It's like, come on, guys. You guys spent millions of dollars building hospital adjuncts that never got used.
By anyone. Nobody ever went there. Why... This is stupid.
People should be, ignoring the people who are saying this stuff by now.
At least laughing at them.
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't ignore them... Laugh at them. Listen so you can laugh at them.
But, okay. That's the only news, is that we're about to suffer from a serious COVID-19 hit, and most of us are going to die.
That could have been nonsense news, too.
Yeah.
All right. I do have some fun news.
Okay.
This is from Belgium. I'm just going to read the little blurb as it appears in the New Oxford Review. It's kind of fun. For years, it was an urban myth. Then diggers found it was true. The heart of a former mayor of Verviers, Belgium. I'm butchering the name of that city, I'm positive. It's spelled Verviers. I'm calling it Verviers.
Okay.
It really was buried under a fountain. A small metal box containing Pierre David's heart in an ethanol-filled jar was uncovered during the renovation of the city's ornate stone fountain. The relic is mentioned in civic documents, but no one actually believed it. The city councilor Maxime Deji told Reuters, "Today the legend is no longer a legend, it's a reality." Pierre David, the city's first mayor after Belgium gained independence in 1830, died in office after falling from a building. Authorities built a fountain in his honor and with his family's permission placed his heart under a stone. Apparently, even though that was recorded, everybody considered it to be an urban legend and nobody believed it. Until now, when they're doing these renovations, they find his heart really is there.
So are they going to put it back?
You know what? It doesn't say. Let me let's see. Where the jar? Okay, no. Okay, so Natalie Wirtz, deputy curator for the Museum of Fine Arts and Ceramics.
So it's going to be put in a museum.
Says that's where the jar containing his heart will remain on display. Until renovation of the fountain is complete.
Oh, they're going to put it
back.
Maybe
they will put it back.
That'd be cool.
That is cool.
And then 100 years from now, they'll be like,
think it's a
"There's
legend.
no way there's really a guy's heart there."
Yep.
Talk about science deniers.
That's right. All right, this is not quite a Walmart. If this had been Walmart, it would have been perfect, but it's Aldi instead.
Okay.
So a woman goes.
Have you been to Aldi's?
I've been to an Aldi. Yeah, we used to shop there for a while.
Okay.
It was because they don't take credit cards. Do they still not take credit cards? That was their thing.
They take credit cards.
Real cheap. They didn't used to take credit cards when we went, and that's why they were so cheap.
They didn't bag for you.
Right.
And you had a lot of times you had to pay for the
They had
cart.
all the boxes. They cut the boxes, put stuff on the shelves, and then the empty boxes were there. You could take those and put your stuff in. We used to make a thing of it. We'd go to Aldi's, do our shopping. We couldn't get everything there, but we could get a lot of stuff. And
it's
they
kind
always
of a
had
different crowd.
Yeah, but it worked.
Not quite as bad as Walmart,
but you know what? Their parking lots were always free of carts.
Yeah.
At least the one we went to, because they had the little carts that you put a quarter in to disconnect it, and then you gotta connect it back up to get your quarter back.
Yeah.
So,
and then if you're at the end of the parking lot and you don't feel like walking all the way up, you'd see someone headed up to get it, and you say, "Hey, you want to buy my shopping cart?" And then take their quarter, and they can take your cart.
Yeah.
You never did that?
Yeah, that's right. I never did that, but yeah.
Okay. Anyway, what's our story?
So anyway, in England, at one of the Aldi supermarkets there, okay, you know the song 100 Bottles of Beer on the Wall?
Yeah.
So this woman wanted to play 500 bottles of booze on the wall. She started breaking, I guess, what ended up being about 500 bottles of alcohol, coming to a total price of about $130,000.
Wait a minute. What?
She went into the store and just started grabbing the bottles and throwing them, smashing them on the floor. There's pictures of it.
She was breaking them?
Yeah.
Huh.
There's pictures of it in Fox News. Breaking them, like just throwing them on the floor. 500
was she
bottles.
singing while she did it?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, it's like that.
Finally, the police
when
came.
they were pushing for prohibition in America, there was I can't remember her name, but this little old lady that would go into bars with an axe and just start smashing the place. And because she was a little old lady, nobody would stop her. But they'd arrest her. But usually she'd get away with smashing the whole place.
Wow.
And she would say, "I did it with my little hatchet." I can't remember. I'm going to look up her name.
That's so weird.
Let's see. It was right when we were just looking more and more like prohibition was going to be a thing. So they knew it. Okay. Carrie Amelin Nation.
Okay. Never heard of it. That's so weird.
Member of the temperance movement.
Okay.
She would go in and Carrie Nation was her name. She would use a hatchet to smash up bars and stuff like that. And I guess, like I said, she'd get arrested and go to jail, but usually nobody would stop her. Huh?
What city was that in?
What?
What city was that in?
Oh, I think it was in, I want to say...
I actually haven't really read much about the whole prohibition and the pre-prohibition movements and stuff like that. Although Dad...
She was from Kentucky.
Oh, really?
I don't think that's where she would do her stuff. I can't find where. Went to Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay, that would be one.
That's where she would start anyway. That's where she started apparently. But I don't think she stayed there. I think she was kind of a national hero for that movement.
The temperance movement. Yeah. That's okay. Well, I don't know. I don't think this woman was being part of the temperance movement. That doesn't even explain why she did it. Well, she wasn't even old necessarily. That's it. I mean, she's got a hoodie on and the hood's up, and you can kind of see the picture, but she doesn't look like she's old in the picture.
You know, some women are crazy.
That could just be that she's
just the
one
way
of
it
those.
is. Yeah.
Go into an Aldi, start smashing their alcohol. Okay, the next two are both kind of gross. The first one, this is I don't know what to say about this. You can't quite buy it yet, but somebody has developed a kit. This is so gross. That will allow you to get some so if you can get some live cells like scraped from the inside of your cheek or something like that.
Yeah.
You can then grow a culture from those few cells into something that you can then like eat as a steak.
So you're eating yourself?
Yeah, meat grown from your cells. That is so gross.
That's terrible.
I know.
That's even worse than cannibalism. That's like
I think it's worse. Yeah, there's even a quote in the news. Grace Knight, one of the designers, has this quote: "People think eating oneself is cannibalism, which technically this is not." Well, no, it's not, but it's kind of like worse.
Yeah, that's a sci-fi story.
Yeah.
I remember reading a sci-fi story about someone who had developed like a little pet type of thing but it was made from your own DNA, so it would actually be part of you.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't read the whole story. I can't remember how. I don't know how it ended, but that was the premise. They would create a pet based on your own DNA.
Oh, okay.
But now you're going to create a state.
Here's the thing: the people doing this are actually. I don't know if they actually intend that this will ever be a real thing, but it says the project was made as a critique of the lab-grown meat industry, which is, at least in the United States, lab-grown meat hasn't been approved for human consumption yet.
Okay.
But apparently these people are trying to
show
at least
how
critique.
absurd it is.
I don't know if they're trying to show how absurd it is, but their opposition to it is that just because it's lab-grown meat, it doesn't mean that they don't slaughter animals to get it started and stuff, because they need blood to grow it in and stuff like that.
Okay.
But in any case, it's gross. The next one is also gross. I don't know, on a couple levels. So a woman suffered like months and months of various problems, malnutrition, sleepless nights, hallucinations, and so on and so forth. It all came from eating some sushi that had been in her refrigerator for about 5 days that she got from a service station. And it turns out that in the sushi was a tapeworm, which over the next months had gotten so big that she could feel it like wriggling in her belly and stuff like that. She finally got treated for it, but it's like, guys, okay, there's no reason to eat sushi anyway, all right?
Yeah.
The whole raw fish
when you
thing.
Buy it from a service station.
Yeah, why would you go into a service station and buy sushi anyway? That's so...
I think probably like 3 times in my life I have bought those sandwiches you see in the gas stations that you really don't know how long they've been sitting there, but I'm so hungry and I need food and I break down. And I always regret it. After eating like half of it, I think to myself, I can't believe I just ate that. But sushi, wow.
But yeah, I know, right? I mean, cold cuts at least are like... processed in some manner. Sushi, just like uncooked fish.
Yeah.
But the thing that I eat. I mean, if it's not like a bag snack, like I might get a bag of beef jerky or something like that. But
yeah, that's got all the stuff.
But the one thing I'll go to those pilot truck stops and I'll get their they call them. They're spelled tornadoes, but I think they're supposed to be pronounced like tornadoes or something like that. And,
okay.
But I'll get those. But they're cooked.
Yeah, I do get those because they're like frozen and they get them in and they're, I guess, kind of like regular.
They put them on those
restaurant
hot
food.
dog cookers where they roll back and forth until they're all heated up and stuff.
I will eat those if I don't feel like going to a drive-thru or something. But sushi, no.
Yeah.
Jason used to make fun of me because I'm so skinny, and he would say I had a
You have a tapeworm?
pet tapeworm. A pet tapeworm.
Oh, yeah.
So every now and then I'd eat some food to feed my pet.
Pet tapeworm, yeah. It's the other reason you eat, to feed your tapeworm. All right. Next one. Okay, this... the little elf on a shelf thing.
Huh?
You know the elf on a shelf thing that people do? They buy a little elf and it's supposed to be like, he shows up in different places in the house on the shelf, like, and your kids are supposed to be like, oh yeah, the elf's watching me, I better be good, stuff like that.
Somebody told me about that, and
To me, it's creepy. To me, it's like completely don't do that to your kids. That's so creepy and stupid. But it's a thing people do. So
okay.
This is an article like just kind of listing with pictures some of the different things that people have done with the elf on a shelf.
Yeah.
So, for example, there's one where they took some chicken bones and laid them out to sort of look like a humanoid skeleton shape and put the elf's hat like at the top, and it's like on a plate where they've eaten some barbecue chicken or something from, so it looks like they had the elf for dinner.
Oh. I still have never I think you're the one who told me about the elf on the shelf, and I kind of thought maybe you were making it up.
It is a real thing, and it is creepy. It's every bit as creepy as it sounds. It's real.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's such a thing. It's really stupid. People shouldn't do it.
Right.
It's another one. I don't know how they got this person to stay asleep during it, but they managed to. This is a person with kind of a real buzz haircut in the back, anyway. And you know how you can carve things in the back, like into your hair. You can carve like some lightning streaks or something. So they carved the word elf into his hair, and they've got the elf sitting next to his pillow with the little battery powered buzzer. Another one had I'm going to try to read this. Some parts are grayed out, I think, to avoid names.
Yeah.
They put a note. Oh, they've got, it looks like there's saran wrap around the Christmas tree, and there's a note. It says, "Christmas is canceled for now. If you want me to keep visiting a Santa visit and your free presents back, your behavior needs to improve. Santa is very angry and I'm disappointed. Be good. Say sorry to one another. You all have 1 week to improve. I'm watching Elsie." I guess that's the name of the elf.
I might do that.
Elsie, creepy McCreep face. At least his parents like smart enough to realize that this elf thing is creepy.
Yeah. Well, I remember a Christmas tree ornament with an elf that had the arms that kind of reached around it so that it could sit as if it's holding up, as if it's like sitting on its knees. I remember at mom having a Christmas ornament like that. It was a little elf, and it would sit on a tree branch.
Oh, I remember that. It had like its arms around, and the knees would fold up between the arms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's like that, but they're a little bit bigger.
Okay.
And with a real creepy face.
Okay.
It might even be the same face. It's like
That's why
that.
I wonder if it's one of those.
But it's not. The arms aren't usually attached like that. It's so it can sit, in whatever pose or whatever. The next one, I don't know whether we should do this on our show. I'll just say it's. Let's say that the elf is in an X-rated position with another stuffed toy. I don't know. I guess maybe these folks don't have any kids, and they're I don't know, dropping hints with each other.
Maybe they put it on their son's dresser to keep him chaste at night. The elf is watching you.
Yeah. But he's not going to be like if the elf gets to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's a weird thing.
I got to think they didn't have kids and they're just playing. And last one is they have the elf like burned up inside of an oven. Like all black and pink. Like the cartoons, like Tom after a bomb explodes.
Yeah.
That's how he looks. I think what happened was that they put the elf in the oven and then forgot that it was in there.
And it just got burned.
Yeah. Anyway, that's enough elf. The final one that I've got is not it's I usually save a big one for last, but this is to me it's just kind of cool. Except who knows what it might have been used for, but these people moved into a house, and it's kind of weird. If you look at the stairs, it's like you can see that there's something about them. Well, it turns out that the stairway hinges. It's on hinges, and the whole stairway lifts up and leads to a sort of descent into a creepy room under it.
Oh, okay.
So it's like if we didn't have a basement, but the stairs going up and like about on the sixth stair up, if somehow it was hinged, but kind of concealed a little bit, but by hitting the right thing, you could lift up the lower 6 stairs, and the whole thing would like lift up, and then you could walk down into something. It's like that.
That would be cool.
It. Wait a minute. Doesn't the Munsters stair do that?
I don't even remember the Munsters.
Okay, I gotta.
I never really liked that show.
I'm gonna do this. Okay, I'm gonna. I don't know whether this is gonna cause sound to play or something. I'm gonna go to YouTube and see if I can find the Munsters. And so can I think. So anyway, I'm just playing it so I can watch. Yeah, they've got the stairs there. There's the grandpa. There's the daughter. They're all coming to give the mom a kiss. Here's the little boy. And there's the stairs. Yeah, the stairs open up. The dad. It's not the grandpa. It's the dad that comes out.
Oh, okay.
But that's exactly what it looks like on these people's home.
Well, that would be pretty
except
neat.
it's like the whole staircase. The staircase itself isn't big enough for only a part of it, so the whole staircase is that. But it's actually it's kind of cool in my opinion.
Yeah. Nice little hideaway.
Yeah, that's right. Can you imagine, like, if a kid, like, just imagine if, like, we had discovered something like that in our house and our parents didn't know about it? Can you imagine?
That would be cool.
That would just be awesome. Okay. Anyway, that's all I got. That's enough weird news for 2 weeks, I think.
All right. Folks, think about what we said. And as always,
circle the beads.
Circle the beads. And we will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.